Oh. All right. We are on. We are on. Hey, man. Shalom, Akim. Shalom. First off, man, we want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Kakadash. We send double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. We send much peace, love, and salutations to you, Akim, out there, pushing the word in sincerity and truth. This is the brother Ariala, and I got the brother Wakari Kwam from London here on with me.
Shalom.
And I know it's been a little minute, Akim, man. I know it's been a little minute. We are back with another GMS Dallas, GMS London, World War III algorithm. Just like I had told you in kind of like the preview video, I wanted to kind of touch on this Venezuelan coup or attempted coup that went down with the puppet Juan Guaido regime. You know, he's been heralded by the Western government. He's been heralded by the United States and the West as the interim president, while you have President Maduro, the current Venezuela president, being vilified by the West, and he's a dictator, and you know, socialism doesn't work, and all that in the backdrop of major economic and political changes that's happening globally, you know, at a prophetic record-setting rate. So we wanted to touch on a few of the concepts and things that's happening geopolitically, geoeconomically, how it relates to prophecy and the Most High's overall algorithm. We call this an algorithm because an algorithm is a system of equations that someone puts together to have a set event happen, you know, and this algorithm of events that the Most High is putting together, we call it the World War III algorithm, is for the War of Armageddon that's spoken about in the scripture. So we highlight things that we see out in the world and fit it in with biblical prophecy to show you how this is nothing but the Most High's hand playing on the minds of men globally for him to reach the outcome that he wants. Okay. Do you have any opening statements?
Yeah, Khan. I just got a scripture real quick.
Let's go.
This is Proverbs 19 and 21. There are many devices in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord that shall stand.
You want to speak on that?
Yeah, Khan. Yeah, I brought that scripture out because ultimately, you know, what we do with the algorithm, as brothers know, is we the first and foremost, we bring out the word of the Most High, so we let the people know what the prophecy of the Lord is, because that's what really matters, the counsel of the Most High. You know, you might have these other pundits, which we listen to them. You know, we can name a few guys that we listen to regularly that go into current events and go into what's that word Silente uses?
Trends.
Trends. Yeah, trends and trend forecasting. But a lot of them dudes, you know, they get certain things right, but certain things they don't get right because they're going according to their own heart. Whereas we kind of got the cheat code, you know, we kind of read the script already. So we're going by the counsel of the Lord. So we're letting you know that no matter what, you know, happens, ultimately it's all towards the fulfillment of the will of the Most High. Destruction of America, which is Babylon the Great, which is the ultimately the fall of the red beast, the fall of Esau, and the rise of the Israelites, beginning with Yahweh Shai and his kingdom and the kingdom of heaven and the establishment of that righteous kingdom. That's what we're here to do, to show that everything that's happening around us is all in the Most High's plan.
That's right. That's right, brother. It's all different devices for the Most High's will to be done. And Venezuela plays a key part in that because within the beast system, which America is at the forefront of this beast system. You got all these guys that want to tell you that America is not a part of the beast system, and they don't understand prophecy. They don't understand the nature of Babylon the Great. They don't understand what mystery Babylon is. They don't understand how that plays into the part of the beast. But America is at the helm of this beast system. When you look at the whole international, all the internet, the institutions that control commerce, trade, war, law, all the areas of activity, so to speak, like Neely Fuller says, man, America is at the forefront of it. And at the forefront of America is the nation of Edom, Esau in the Bible. Okay. And what they're doing is they're using different monetary schemes of control. Oil, petroleum, energy is at the forefront of what's called a distribution model, meaning how you get stuff there and here and there. If you can control how things are distributed globally, you have control. So not only do they want to control the actual medium of energy that forwards distribution, and that medium of energy is petroleum, oil, and natural gas, okay? They want to control how that energy is delineated. And so you have something called the petrodollar, okay? So they control commerce and trade. When you read in the book of Revelation, the 18th chapter, it talks about how the merchants of the earth deal with Babylon the Great, that great city. All right. At the forefront of that is when you get to the crux of that, this is why Venezuela is in the view. Venezuela is the number one reserve. They have the number one oil reserves in the world. Okay. So because they have a rebellion, so to speak, really they don't have that much rebellion, but they're considered rebellious to the system, the beast system. There's a military coup being set up. They want to control those resources. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that. You have a point?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something real quick because, we talk about Gog Magog, which is Russia, which they're Edomites. But the reason we have to focus in on America is because according to prophecy, America is that eighth head in the prophecy. That's why America is so important, Babylon the Great, because Esau, the red Hebrew Edomite, was going to gain his ultimate supremacy through America.
That's right.
I just want to just get that scripture real quick. Just give me a second, I'll get it up.
Go on.
So look, I'm just using this iPad.
Were you gonna go to Daniel 7?
Now I think it says where it says it's 10 horns.
Oh yeah, Revelation 17.
Yeah, and it says the eighth. It says the beast is of the seventh.
Yeah.
So it's got 7 heads. I'll get it up here.
Revelation 17 and 10. You want me to read it?
Yeah, can't the water.
Revelation 17 and 10, it says, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And
that's the one that was at that time was the Roman Empire based around the city-state of Rome in Italy, today. And that goes back to the ancient Roman Empire. And then it said there would be one that would come that would continue a short space. That's talking about the British Empire. That was the 7th head going up.
And a beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th. and is of the seven, and goeth into perdition.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful prophecy because we know that the British Empire was the seventh, and then the British Empire fell after World War II. It completely fell apart. The British lost their power seat, and it was transferred to the Americans. That's why they call it the Anglo-American Empire, because the American Empire pretty much came out of the British Empire. It went from the pound as the world reserve currency to the dollar.
Yep.
That's no coincidence. So here it is. It's letting you know that America, America, Babylon the Great would be that head of America, and then now you have Russia and these other nations coming up against that head. Nevertheless, that's going to be the last part of Esau's kingdom. So they all going to go down once America goes down.
Yep. And you got to remember also, as America became the forefront of the world international economy, all these other nations locked in with it. And after that time of World War II, you start to see unprecedented international trade deals and a whole global international what's the word I'm looking for? International trade deals start to be forwarded and established like never before seen. Okay. And this is what helped bolster America. Okay. And forward it past Britain. In verse 12, it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings, 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Okay? Yeah, something you want to say?
Yeah, and that's exactly how the geopolitics of Europe has played out. Pretty much, you go back into World War One and World War Two. World War One and World War Two was basically two battles between Britain and Germany. Germany's always been the more stronger industrially. That's the reason for World War One and for World War Two. Britain was threatened by Germany, but what happened was, by the end of World War II, Europe had become weakened and America had become strengthened. So then what happened was all those European nations ended up having to come together under America. And that's where you get the EU. That's where you get NATO. They all became mini-me's to America. That's history.
Yes, sir.
They had to step aside because a superpower had emerged.
That's right.
You know, Germany was not a superpower. Britain was not a superpower. America became technically the first superpower. And then Russia became the challenger.
Yep.
You know, which that's all scripture. You know, Gog and Magog to get them together for the war of Armageddon.
Yep. And that's why you get the Treaty of Rome and the consolidation of the European states into one institutional group that basically was under the authority of America underhandedly. But you had Amalek, so-called Jews, ruling all these different states through policy. Okay. And this is how we know so-called white man Esau is ruling. Okay. You want more on this in Revelation, not?
No, that's it, Ark.
All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna play some video clips and go through some scriptures. If scriptures come to mind, I will be periodically looking at the comic boards, reading comments. I won't read all comments and precepts that brothers bring to the table. Okay. First video that we want to pull is this one. The page is Progressive Muslim TV. This video is a pretty good video, but it kind of just gives an idea of what's going on in Venezuela from an independent news point of view, okay?
The U.S. government now sending aid to the people, but Venezuela's socialist dictator is refusing all of it, even sending the Venezuelan army.
And they make sure to push that idea of socialistic dictatorship. Socialistic dictatorship. They push that propaganda, you know?
To the Colombian border to prevent the food and medical supplies from the U.S. from getting into the country. Think about that for a second. You have a nation that's starving, a nation where 90% of the people live in poverty. They're living on less than $3 a day there. A nation where people are hungry enough to loot food trucks, as you see there in this exclusive.
You see this chick right here? This is the same chick that will go out with you, go to the club, drink shots all night with you, get wasted, go back to your hotel room, get butt naked, have sex with you, and will wake up and say you raped her. These are the type of people that's giving you the news, okay? I just want to put that out there. All right, they're pathological. It's just inside of them they know how to create victimization and play victim when the whole time they're the criminal. Okay?
The video. A nation that is so strapped for cash that its hospitals are unsanitary. I want you to see this. This is also exclusive video of a hospital in Venezuela. This is why the people are rising up. This is why they want a new start.
Lady, you are chatting out your ass. Here is why. In 1998, Hugo Chavez won a landslide election, defeating Carlos Perez and ending decades of corporate capitalist control of Venezuela. Chavez came in and gave all the corporations and the United States the middle finger. He promised a wave of changes ranging from social programs as well as taking back control of Venezuela's vast resources to serve the needs of its people. Now you may ask, Venezuela is barely mentioned on a global scale. I mean, how many of you actually know the capital of Venezuela? But recently, why has it all of a sudden become so relevant? Why is everyone concerned about Venezuela? Well, it turns out Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves. Yes, it has more oil than Saudi Arabia. And if it wanted to, Venezuela could become like Dubai overnight. Now, in 98.
That's not necessarily true. But Venezuela is the does have the number one oil reserves. Their oil is not like what Dubai and them have. Dubai and them got that grade A shit, that cocaine. You know, you know, Venezuela ain't got that. Like Venezuela's oils is more expensive to use, but they got so much of it and it's cheap. It's good stuff. You know, you can make some good money. Okay.
Chavez comes in, and under a raft of social programs, he tells the Western world that if you want to buy Venezuelan oil, then you're going to have to pay up. Long gone are the days of cheap oil. And this was a testament to his character, who stood up to all the neoliberals and was truly a man of his people. Now, he had his flaws. He curtailed freedom of speech. He limited government to his own parties and gave himself stronger controls. And this is an issue. But the focus here is policy, because what he does personally is not the issue of the Western world. His policies that he did for his own people is what should be commended. But if you only read the Western media, such as BBC, CNN, Fox News, you'd be told Chavez is a dictator. He's a liar. He's a tyrant. Blah, 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 blah. Why? Because he told the Western allies to fuck off or pay up. He did not play to their playbook. For example, take Coke Industries, a huge donor to the Republican Party in America and one of the largest companies in the world. Now, they have oil refineries in Florida, and their oil requires a special additive. Sorry, not Florida, in Texas. Their oil requires a special additive, which they can only get from Venezuela. The closest additive they'd find compatible with their refineries is from Venezuela. You can see the game going on here, with recently ramping up of a crisis in Venezuela. Anyway, Chavez begins selling oil at a better price, and he brings in more and more money to his country. This income is funding his social programs, the medicine for his people, the food that he provides, the subsidized housing, the subsidized education, etc., etc. Social programs, socialism, whatever you want to call it. In fact, poverty in Venezuela went from 71% under the capitalist pigs to 29% under Chavez. This is a raking success, and turning the tables where for once the people who look like they're Venezuelan are actually benefiting from Venezuela. Now, you have to understand that Venezuela's biggest income is actually from oil. In fact, 85% of its income comes from oil. Now, in 2012, Chavez unfortunately passes away, and the reins have been passed on to his understudy, Nicolas Maduro. Now, like any company or any house, when the leader is gone, its competitors are out for blood. So, what did the United States decide to do? Having tried to topple Chavez through various military coups and failed, it decided to tank the economy. So, in 2014, John Kerry, who was Secretary of State at the time, went to meet with the Saudis to negotiate new terms for an oil agreement.
Now, we talk about this on previous algorithm videos and on a video that I did on Venezuela. I can't think of the name of the video. I'll have to go search it. But basically, you know, this is when they started to conspire to take down Venezuela, take down Iran. And in 2014, 2015, at that same time is really when Russia, China, and the other BRICS nations really started to move forward with the new development bank or BRICS Bank, and the new Silk Road agreements, different trade agreements, really started to trade and deal and figure out ways to move outside of the petrodollar. So you start to see Kerry underneath Obama and them start to really make moves. This is when they ramped up what they had going on in Syria and started to try to crush the economies of Iran and Venezuela. They're not trying to, but they did, you know, crush those economies. Okay?
Now, with the Syrian war going on and Yemen, etc., you know, the issues going on there, the United States said to the Saudis, look, we'll buy more oil from you. Sell it to us at a cheaper price, but we'll buy more from you. And we'll give you a favorable price when it comes to weapons. Saudis have the issues with Yemen, the issues with Iran, Syria, Russia, blah, 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 blah. Now, what was the point of this? The point was that the US will buy more oil from the Saudis, but it will stop buying oil from Venezuela. At the same time, the United States places sanctions on Venezuela under the guise of dictator controls and Maduro being a tyrant, blah, blah, blah. The usual United States playbook. For example, America tells the Bank of England to freeze the assets of the Venezuelan government. The Venezuelan government's gold reserves are in the Bank of England. Now, it also has assets in various other banks around Europe, and more importantly, the gas station Citgo in America is a Venezuelan company, and their assets have been frozen, kind of, and I'm coming on to that. Now, this frozen of the Venezuelan assets has been a huge loss to its economy because they no longer can fund the social programs I mentioned before. And with this, of the economy tanking, with no cash reserves, there's uproar because people are not getting the medicine, the socialized medicine they once had. They're not getting the housing benefits that they once had. They're not getting the education benefits that they once had because the Venezuelan government doesn't have the money, because all their money is tied up by America. So you understand the game going on here, right? The Americans want to tank the Venezuelan economy, then there's uproar by the people, and the people want change. So, who is the change? Well, this is where Juan Guaido comes in. Educated in America, who now assumes leadership of Venezuela, of whom the United States.
That's the Obama clone right there. Now with that he kind of gave you a really quick synopsis of the history of Venezuela, what led up, how basically Venezuela was coming against the Edomite supremacist economic machine and was supporting the Asherites in Venezuela, and how they came with the sanctions, and now they're trying to put it in the puppet government so they can fully take over that whole industry. Did you add anything, Ak? I'm gonna finish this out.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring one scripture real quick.
Let's go, champ.
In the book of Ecclesiastes, because there's two things that we're seeing here, which goes all the way back to the ancient world. The first thing is we're seeing a siege. You know, when they're putting these sanctions on Venezuela, it's pretty much no different than when an ancient army put a siege around a city. They're putting pressure on that place, on their trading. They're putting pressure on the people within to turn against their own leaders. Let me just get that scripture up. I mean, me and the elder here, we were discussing that happened in the program Game of Thrones.
That's right.
You know, when the Bolton's bastard son put a siege on a particular castle, and what happened? The people within the castle pretty much rebelled against their own leader and turned them over because they couldn't take the pressure from the siege. And that's basically what these the sanctions are that they're doing. This is Ecclesiastes 1:9. It says, "The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun." So instead of bringing an army and physically making a barricade for trade and goods and resources and replenishment, they're doing it economically using sanctions. But the result is still the same. They're trying to put pressure on the people within Venezuela to turn upon their leaders so they can put their puppet government in place, which again is not a new thing on earth. You know, the client state or the puppet state is an old tactic used by many empires of old. So this ain't nothing new. Go ahead, Art.
That's right. Ain't nothing new under the sun, man. Great point, man. Great point. All right. Finish this up.
Have given allegiance to. I mean, it seems like America wishes to give its allegiance to whoever it wants, but, you know, no surprise there. Now he is backed by America, and the Citgo gas.
I see GMS San Diego. I didn't know there was a GMS camp in San Diego. I don't know. Okay.
Company I just mentioned, their assets, the money they are making, are what is funding the campaign and the uprising by Guaido. Now, all of this is in the name of corporate oil interests, led by former CIA director.
Hey, GMS San Diego, you need to get in touch with the GMS LA camp. You will be underneath their jurisdiction if you haven't. And then the head of that camp, the head of the GMS San Diego, needs to get with the Elder Mwatazak in LA. If you haven't done that, you need to take GMS off your name.
Director and current Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. That's what's going on in Venezuela. That is the current situation. And to give you an example of how deceitful this is Mike Pompeo on Fox News.
Full transition takes place, which is our ultimate objective, that the Venezuelan people will want to be sovereign and independent, not rely on Cubans and Russians for their security or their well-being.
Would be great. I think they would like that. Do you have concerns that Venezuela runs the risk of turning into a no man's land, where you have these bad actors, including some with links to Hezbollah, that could be more of a threat because they're in our hemisphere?
Yeah, Tricia, I'm glad you brought that up. People don't recognize that Hezbollah has active cells. The Iranians are impacting the people of Venezuela and throughout South America.
They just come up with just bullshit, man. It's just,
I just realized what this dude was saying, man. This shit's crazy.
Obligation to take down that risk for America, and part of what we'll talk about next week in Warsaw is certainly how we do that in South America and all across the globe.
I mean, what on earth is that? This is the Iraq war all over again. Hezbollah in Venezuela? Are you so desperate to take their oil? And are your people so stupid that you'd make up Hezbollah, a Lebanese liberation organization, terrorist in the name of others?
yes, people are that stupid.
Hey, I got a precept, Buck.
Let's go, champ.
This is Hosea the 12th chapter and the 7th verse. It says, "He is a merchant. The balances of deceit are in his hand. He loveth to oppress." Look at these dudes. They claim to be politicians, but they're just merchants, man.
Call that and read it again, Baba Kusha.
Hosea 12 and 7. It says, "He is a merchant. The balances of deceit are in his hand. He loveth to oppress."
Woo!
These guys are, all these dudes, these politicians, the wicked elite, they're all just merchants, man.
Mm-hmm.
And everything they do is, there's a backstory going back to their business deals. Even this dude right here on TV, you know, he's a businessman.
Man, all day. And
they're doing what's good for business.
That's exactly what they're doing for the corporation of America, man. And the handlers are all these Amalekites. Just executing contracts. You know, executing contracts, you know? But hey, it's all in the Most High's World War III algorithm. Beautiful.
Are going to be in Venezuela? I mean, get the fuck out of here. Wow. So please spread the message, spread the word. Let's all hope the Venezuela.
Yeah, man. So I wanted to play that because, you know, this is the propaganda we see that's leading up into wars and rumors of wars, and it's going to actually lead into full-fledged war when these nations start to actually make moves. And that's what we want to move on into on this particular algorithm. You know, we have tons of articles. We're not going to be able to get to all these articles and all these videos, but we want to talk about the ramifications, particularly in the Venezuelan coup, is a little bit more interesting. Just like whenever the United States basically went into Syria, and basically they started to fund a coup in Syria for there to be a civil war, and Russia had to step in because international interests were a little bit too big. And Venezuela is a similar situation. So right now, what we're looking at prophetically is like, okay, well, is this going to be a situation that spearheads conflicts that lead into more war? Now they're saying Hezbollah is in Venezuela. You know, we know that the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat is the main thing. And so they got to do whatever they can do in order to spearhead reasons to have those wars. You got the United States and the state of Israel currently, and Netanyahu just got reelected amongst all the scandals. You remember all those scandals out?
Oh man.
He got through all those scandals and got reelected, and basically they've opened up the Golden Height region, which is Syrian territory, honestly, but it's full of oil and natural gas. And so now they're trying to claim more territory within the Golden Height region. You got somebody.
You know what? You know why he got reelected, right? But not only is he a scumbag and it's all rigged, but at the same time, them Israelis down there, they're really gripped with fear. And at the end of the day, they don't care about the Israeli voters don't care about whether Bibi's wife bought some extra shoes or whatever the case may be. Bibi represents strength. He's a hardliner when it comes to the so-called enemies of the state of Israel. And that's what the constituency is voting based upon, fear.
Mm-hmm.
So they gonna vote him in.
That's right.
Because they're on the threat.
Let me read this. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verse 14. It says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power." And that's what's happening, man. We're seeing these military coups, more so-called color revolution, and invading one another. And it's going to lead into an invasion here in America.
Mm-hmm.
You got something out?
Yeah, I was just looking ahead because you was mentioning about because I know we're gonna go into the situation in Venezuela. Prior to that, you had Syria, and prior to that, you had Lebanon. Now you had the Putin. Before Putin came into power, as I believe he was what they have a president and a prime minister, don't they?
Right.
Right. So the president is above the prime minister, and so when Putin came into power the first time, that's when Russia started going back into that adversary mind frame against America.
Mm-hmm.
But then Medvedev came into power, and a lot of people say Putin was pulling strings behind the scenes, but under Medvedev, basically Russia kind of slacked, and Medvedev allowed Libya to happen. I don't know if you brothers remember watching the what happened with Libya, but Russia was very outspoken about what was happening in Libya, but they didn't do anything. This was under Medvedev. If you go back and look, Medvedev was the guy that was in power during the whole Libyan situation. And it's very telling that when Putin came into power, Putin didn't allow what happened in Libya to happen to Syria.
Mm-mm.
In fact, the whole Syria situation now is pretty much Assad's won the war with the backing of the Russians. So that's kind of like a punch in the nose to America, because the whole world knows what America intended for Syria. Make no mistake, the average Negro on the corner don't know, because they don't understand geopolitics. But from the east to the west, all the nations know that when America pushed out a particular propaganda and then they started bombing in Syria, that means that they had earmarked or targeted Syria for regime change, and it was a matter of time. So when Russia managed to stop that, that was like a signal to the world of there's another major player on the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big victory for the fact that America hasn't caused regime change in Syria as they intended was a major blow to America's reputation.
Time. And you know, and Russia is playing that defense, as the prophecy said.
That's right. So that's why now we're looking at Venezuela, because America wants to do in Venezuela what they want to do in Syria. So that's why we're keeping our eyes on it, because is Russia going to do the same thing again? You know, that's basically what we're looking at. And it would make sense according to prophecy that they would. But we got to see how the Most High plan to play it out overall. Because this is chess, not checkers, you know.
See, I'm gonna go ahead and go with this first article. This first article is from AlJazeera.com. It says it was written back in January 30th of this year. It says what Russia stands to lose in Venezuela. While the U.S. pushes to drive Venezuela's Maduro from power, Russia vows to continue supporting its strategic partner. Okay? It says, as Washington intensifies its push to drive Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro from power, Russia's Vladimir Putin has vowed to support his South American strategic partner and warned of the catastrophic consequences of the United States were to send military assistance to opposition leader Juan Guaido. While the U.S. called a special United Nations Security Council session on Saturday focused on the crisis in Venezuela, Russia used the session to warn against foreign intervention in the Latin American nation and accused the U.S. of attempting a coup. Fast forward to today, we see it going down. It says Russia's private military contractors have flown into Venezuela in recent days to increase security for the Maduro, according to Reuters news agency. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has denied the reports. I mean, they have to deny it. That'd be stupid not to deny it, you know. But you best to believe, most likely, Russia has sent people to protect Maduro, you know. And that's why that when you look at that military coup, it was mostly unsuccessful, you know. People driving around in vans and shit, and that was it. Okay. It says on Friday, Russia offered to mediate between Maduro's legitimate government and the opposition if necessary. To mediate, I'm sorry. It says, saying it was ready to cooperate with all political forces that acted responsibly. Moscow stands to lose a great deal if Maduro government collapses. Experts say. In the mid-1990s, Russia looked to Latin America for business opportunities. Under Hugo Chavez, Maduro's predecessor, Russia became one of Venezuela's strongest allies, with economic ties ranging from oil and loans to arms sales. Duncan said that since Putin came to power in 2000, he has sought to cultivate partners in Latin America to counterbalance U.S. influence in the region and to enhance Russia's great power status in the world. Anton Barbashin, a political analyst in Wilson Center, said a major reason why Russia supports Maduro, the same principle why it supports Syria's President Bashar al-Assad, is the belief that no foreign power should meddle in the sovereign affairs of a particular state. Vladimir Rubinsky, a foreign policy expert in IC University in Colombia, told Al Jazeera the Kremlin views Venezuela as the backyard of the United States in Washington's sphere of political influence, in the same way that Ukraine is in Russia's backyard, or what the Kremlin calls the near abroad. Okay.
And you see how these made no mistake, these Russians are devils, man. You see how they're trying to make it look like, you know, they're the good guy and they don't, you know, no one should meddle in. Look, man, Russia's been meddling in other nations' affairs since the Cold War. These are just two devils vying for power.
Yep.
You know, don't ever get it twisted. Like Russia is not the good guys in this. They're both devils.
Time.
You know, these dudes talking about partners. Esau don't have partners, man.
Let's see. I'm gonna skip down. It says Russia wants to at least have a symbolic involvement in Latin America as payback for U.S. intervention. Putin found an ally in Venezuela. The late Chavez and now Maduro have shared Putin's worldview opposed to the U.S. hegemony. Ties between the U.S. and Venezuela began to sharply deteriorate when a socialist President Chavez was elected in 1999. The U.S. administration of George H.W. Bush, beginning in 2001, Chavez became highly critical of Washington's imperialistic foreign policy in the Middle East, including the invasion of Iraq. That's when you saw Hugo Chavez talk. Hey, there's sulfur up here after Bush had got off the podium when all the people that came together. I don't know if y'all brothers remember that. In 2015, Caracas and Washington's relations hit rock bottom when former President Barack Obama issued an executive order declaring Venezuela a threat to the U.S. national security and ordered sanctions against 7 Venezuelan officials. The U.S. sanctions against Venezuela, which have intensified under President Trump, prohibited U.S.-based companies or people from buying and selling new debt issued by the state-run oil body of Petróleos de Venezuela or the government. Economic warfare. Former special rapporteur who visited Venezuela over a period of 21 years has criticized the U.S. sanctions, describing them as economic warfare that aims to strangle the economy and facilitate regime change. Maduro's alliance with Russia has been important in strengthening a sense of sovereign Venezuelan national identity in defiance of the U.S. Caracas has historically taken a pro-Russian stance. Venezuela voted against the resolution condemning Russia's annexation the Ukrainian Peninsula, Crimea in 2014. And it was one of the few countries to formally recognize South Ossetia and how you say that word? Abkhazia, the regions of Georgia, which broke away in 1991. Okay, so you see the Venezuela supporting Russia, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. In 2017, Reuters reported that the Russian government and Russia's largest state-owned oil company, Rosneft, advanced Venezuela at least $17 billion in loans and credit lines between 2016 and 2017, becoming Venezuela's largest sponsor after China. Shoot, man, holla at your boy, man. Shit. Can I borrow $1?
Yeah, could it be to give me an advance, man? Shit.
So y'all see Russia throw money at these guys, and they going back and forth all so they can exist outside of these sanctions. And it's just not Russia. You also have China, you got Iran, Cuba, you know, and several other nations. Now Turkey is getting involved. Okay. It says Venezuela oil, I'm gonna call it that, PDVSA, has been secretly negotiating with Russia since at least early 2018, offering Rosneft ownership interest in up to 9 of Venezuela's most productive petroleum projects. Let's see. Political significance. Let's see. More on this. Let's see. The collapse of Maduro's government would have a far greater political significance than economic importance for Moscow. Without Putin's support, the opposition will have a much easier time taking power. And as Venezuela's opposition gains strength in international backing, experts are certain that Putin will do whatever it takes to keep Maduro in power. Okay? So we'll see. We'll see. You know? But that just shows there's political ties between nuclear empowered states. So let's go, champ. Was there anything else that you wanted me to read on that?
No, that's all good.
Okay. So I'm gonna go to, what was that? Here it goes. Play this video real quick, okay?
Can't.
U.S. Treasury Department has added top Venezuelan diplomat, Foreign Minister Jorge Arriaza, to a growing number of Venezuelan officials on its sanctions list. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said the U.S. will not simply stand by and watch as, in his words, the illegitimate Maduro regime starves the Venezuelan people of their wealth,
can you hear that?
And right to democracy. The sanctions against the foreign minister come just days before major sanctions against Venezuela's oil industry go into effect. Oil is Venezuela's economic lifeline, and from next Monday, no foreign entity will be able to use the U.S. financial system to on oil. Foreign Minister Arriaza tweeted, "The sanctions will give us more strength to fight for Venezuela's democracy." He says U.S. policies towards Venezuela amount to a precursor to a military invasion, and he's calling on Russia to increase its efforts to help Venezuela defend itself. Another longtime Venezuelan ally has entered the fray, with Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez denying that Cuba has troops in Venezuela and calling U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton a pathological liar. Bolton says some 20,000 Cubans in Venezuela are providing security for Maduro, while Rodriguez says they are mostly medical students. And as politicians around the globe make headlines talking about the situation in Venezuela, many people here say they think the situation is likely to get worse before it gets better. Media reports indicate that at least 58,000 Venezuelans have applied for asylum in the U.S. are waiting for answers.
So we're gonna see, man. This may actually escalate. You know, there was a part of me that was thinking that this is most likely not gonna escalate. But now that I'm reading more and more information, this might actually escalate into something that's interesting. And not maybe full-scale war, but tensions that lead to other countries outside of Venezuela that actually have conflict. You know, whether it's Hezbollah that they're making up, or Iran, or whatever, you know? Do you have a precept? Because I was going to read this real quick.
I was thinking about this precept, man. So, yeah.
This same scripture? Yeah, Ezekiel 38:2, it says, "Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Miktesh and Tubal, and prophesy against him and say, Thus saith the Lord power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, and chief prince Meshesh and Tubal." It says, "And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them with all sorts of armor, with a great company, with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords." And that reminds me of what you were saying about Vladimir Putin and how he's risen up that spirit of rebellion within not just Russia, but Russian allies. You know, they giving these other allies weapons, they doing trade deals, they making money outside of the hegemonic power of the United States and the West. So they getting swagged up, you know?
Yeah, they even said the other day I think they said to China that we're willing to provide you with all the oil that you need. Which, you know, China needs oil bad.
God. Hey, and I think that was one of the articles that you had sent about China, you know, right? I'll look and see if I can find it. But let me finish this up real quick. It says Persia Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shields and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, and the house of Togomar of the North Quarter and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and thou be a guard unto them. And that's what's happening, man. You got Russia supplying all these weapons and economic securities to these different nations. So outside of sanctions and blockades and propaganda from the United States and the West, these nations are still swagged up to the fullest, man. They ready to fight, you know? So it's going down. Let me see if I can find that article. Did you have any points out?
No, that was it, man. We're in the time where which this if Russia do manage to stop America for doing another regime change, that's going to heighten everything, man. That's going to bring everything to a new level. And who knows how, because a lot of the Israelis, the Benjamin Netanyahu, they rely a lot on America's power in the world, man. And as America's power wanes, that's that wild card right there. They could do anything, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for, you know, them Israelis, the state of Israel, to do something crazy. So this is all beautiful, man. We just gotta watch it unfold.
Come on. I want to read this article. This is in Bloomberg. Oh, no, that's not the one. Hold on. Just 1 second. Let me see if I can find it. Real quick. This is back in November 2018. The national interest, it says, the United States' greatest strength over Russia and China is its alliance with Europe. And that goes back into Revelation, the 17th chapter. By straining our relationships, Trump is weakening America's capacity to deter Moscow and compete with Beijing. I don't know. Let me see. Blah, blah, blah. It says, President Donald Trump has rightly recognized that America must do more to stand up to China and Russia and threats to the U.S. interests. While most agree that having a national security strategy centered around strategic competition is wise and warranted, the administration is falling short in how it is executing that strategy. If the United States wants to retain our competition edge over our rivals, the administration must embrace and strengthen our greatest assets, our vast network of alliances and commitment to democracy. As Trump, and that ain't nothing but code word for control and commitment to control. That wine of the wrath of fornication that's spoken about in the book of Revelation, right? And in the book of Habakkuk and in the book of Jeremiah. It says, as Trump heads to Paris this weekend to mark the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I, therefore, he would do well to recognize that supporting strong European allies and transatlantic cohesion will be the best way to counter rising Chinese and Russian influence. And of course, we see that's not really happening. You know what I'm saying?
You got, like you always say, you got Germany and France. You know, the what Nord Stream pipeline and all that.
Nord Stream 2. You know, and you see we got all these different articles. I might put a lot of these articles into the discussion chat, but I'm not gonna read all of those. I felt like this headline was interesting. It says, this is in Bloomberg, South America is a battlefield in the new Cold War. The Venezuela crisis is a test for Russian and Chinese power in America's backyard. The political crisis in Venezuela has pitted the U.S. against a dictator who refuses to leave office. But the crisis has a broader significance. It shows that Latin America has again become an arena in which rival great powers struggle for influence and advantage. As the U.S. faces surging geopolitical rivalry around the world, its position is also coming under pressure in its own backyard. The region has been the focus of global competition before, of course, from the Spanish-Portuguese rivalry of the 15th and 16th centuries to the Cold War between Washington and Moscow. But after the fall of the Soviet Union, Latin America seemed for a time at least to have become a geopolitics-free zone. The retreat and disintegration of the Soviet Union left the U.S. with no challenge for predominant regional influence. Castro's Cuba turned inward, consumed by a profound economic crisis, and that was just because it was blocked from doing any trade with anyone. As countries democratized and embraced free markets, the region became essentially unipolar in an ideological sense as well. By the early 2000s, however, the climate was shifting. First came a new generation of leaders who viewed neoliberal economics as the source of the region's persistent poverty and inequality. Governments led by the likes of Chavez in Venezuela, Evo Morales in Bolivia, Rafael Correa in Ecuador, coupled populist political appeals and economic programs with a penchant for illiberalism and, in some cases, outright authoritarianism. It's just hilarious how these people are just so biased. You know what I'm saying? It says they challenged the U.S. Diplomatically and rhetorically while establishing close ties with Cuba. This created a block of regional actors that opposed American power, just as outside actors were beginning to assert or reassert their own influence in the region. Okay? So, you know, within these last 10 years, you've had the rise of these smaller nations, you know, building up their own military powers, formulating their own economic prowess, and going from what was considered developed countries into developing. And now you got China, India, and other nations that are pressing up against the American Western hegemon, man. You know, they're really coming up against the basic power structure. You got anything out?
Khan, I sent you an article on the Hangouts. If you can get the national interest article for me, please, Baba Kashar. And the point would be just get.
Did you send me that article already?
Yeah, so I sent you it in the Hangouts chat that you sent me the link in.
Oh, okay. I was.
Yeah, that's the link right there. There's a I think it's like the third paragraph that starts these two facets. Basically, in the paragraphs before that, it speaks about. I mean, let's see if we can get a little bit off that. The key point is in the third paragraph. I mean, this article goes back to 2017, and it's heavy because we're in 2019 right now, and it kind of already, you know, broke it down.
Damn, Maduro big as hell.
Oh shit.
Oh shit. Putin kicked his ass though. Put that judo on his ass. It says while Venezuela proves that Russia is still a world power. You want me to read?
The key point is in the third paragraph.
passes of the United States map because the fault line that could stoke disputes between Washington and Moscow many of the expected scenarios, such as an uptick of fighting in eastern Ukraine or an accidental clash in the Baltic Sea between NATO and Russian military aircraft. Rather, it is the festering political crisis in Venezuela. It says, it's got so many things that's trying to load. You know, I got this old ass computer. My other computer broke.
Boom. And this is from 2017.
Mm-hmm. It says, ever since the death of Hugo Chavez, this Bolivarian political movement has been struggling to retain power amidst a deteriorating economy run into the ground between a mix of ham-handed government interventions and collapsing oil prices. Maduro, lacking the charm and charisma of his predecessor, has watched the opposition grow in popular strength to the point where it now constitutes the majority of the national assembly. Following a well-worn playbook, Maduro has sought to find legal and extra-legal ways to bypass the opposition and how he governs Venezuela, while desperately searching for ways to stem the collapse of the economy. Chavez, in order to gain greater maneuvering room, turned to Russia as an alternate source of investment in the country's energy and mining sectors, and as a source of military hardware to equip his defense and security forces. In turn, access to Venezuelan oil and gas has become an indispensable part of Russia's state oil company, Rosneft's strategy to turn itself from a Eurasian provider of energy into an international major. PDVSA, the Venezuelan state energy company, in its search for cash and capital, has been willing to allow Rosneft to purchase stakes in more of its crown jewel assets and even stake the shares in its U.S. refining and distribution conglomerate, Citgo, as collateral for additional infusions of funds from Rosneft.
Right. So basically, the article, what you're seeing there is, since Venezuela took a turn for the worse, they've basically called on Russia and had Russia invest in them heavily. Like Russia is heavily invested in Venezuela, which for them means that they can then call upon Russia for protection, because if Russia allow Venezuela to go down, they've lost all that investment. Bro, can you key up the article I sent you? The explainer.
That second article?
The first one that I sent you. It should be the Venezuela coup bad news to Moscow one.
Okay. Hold on, it's gonna take a second.
Because that's the money side of things. Is Putin has put all this money into Venezuela. They don't want to lose all that money and that economic benefit that they've invested in. But there's also the reputation.
God.
You know the part of this article. If we just go through the bit where it says reputation, because Esau and his pride. And a lot of times you got to look at this thing too. Like a lot of things that happen on the street level, the whole world runs like that. It's reputation.
Yep.
Sometimes on the street, guys do things because they're trying to keep their reputation.
Yeah, that's one of the 48 laws of power, man. You gotta protect your reputation at all costs.
Russia's in that situation right now.
Mm-hmm.
So the Most High is kind of like drew it's an algorithm, because Russia has been drawn into a situation where they really have to defend Venezuela for so many reasons.
Yeah. But it's interesting that they have to defend Venezuela for the sake of their own name. Like, you know what I mean? What does Moscow stand to lose if the government? Oh, I think I had already had that pulled up.
Okay, come.
Maybe not.
Let me line up.
It says Venezuela further slipped chaos on April 30th as Venezuelan opposition leader Guaido called for a military uprising to oust President Nicolas Maduro. And armed factions exchanged gunfire outside the Caracas air base. Half a world away, Moscow is bound to be alarmed. You know, Russia has major investments, political and economic, in the South American country in recent years. So Russia stands to lose a lot out of this, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that Ezekiel 38 that we just read, that falls into play here quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they got money tied up into this. They stand to lose a significant portion of large investments that they've been putting in, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Russia made major investments, political and economic, in the South American country in recent years. Along with Nicaragua, Venezuela has served as a sort of beachhead for Russian influence in the Western Hemisphere, something Moscow lost when its ties with Cuba withered in the wake of the Soviet collapse. In addition to selling hundreds of millions of dollars in military equipment to Caracas, Russia has invested heavily in the crucial oil sector and snapped up major stakes in the state-run oil company.
Right. If you jump all the way down, the last segment is called reputation. Because we kind of went over all that economic stuff, but this is going home in on the reputation side of things. Because it goes into the oil, it goes into the arms sales, then it's going to go into reputation.
It says reputation. Arguably, the biggest thing Russia stands to lose if Maduro's government falls is its reputation. The Kremlin's and Vladimir Putin's in particular. The Russian presence in Venezuela is a way of projecting power, which echoes of the Soviet presence in Cuba and building relationships in Central America. It's also a way to bother the United States, which has long considered the Western Hemisphere part of its natural sphere of influence. Certainly, Moscow's interest in Venezuela is driven by its quite tense relations with the United States, and it wants to provide a counterbalance to the United States. Mikhail Wagil, a researcher specializing in Latin America at the Finnish Institute of International Affairs, told RFE/RL in an interview in January. Establishing close relationships with Venezuela gives Moscow a certain nuisance power in relation to the United States. Hey, and it's a foundation to bring their ships, bring, frigates and weaponry, jets out of there. It's a position of to be able to fight. It says, and they can be used as a bargaining chip in future dealings with the United States. It can also be kind of a showcase for Russia's aspirations to be considered a global power. Yeah,
and that's the key. You see, this World War III, we can see how it's unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
It started way back in what 1947 with the Cold War. Back then, you had the Soviet Union, you had Babylon the Great, and they were vying for who was going to be the superpower. We know that Russia took a back seat, and they fell from that position, and America became that go-to nation. Now, Russia's come back into resurgence. If they're going to gather together these allies that the scriptures say that they're going to gather together, so we know it's prophecy. We know that Gog and Magog are going to have a following, a great following of nations that follow them. But these nations ain't trying to follow no punk.
Mm-hmm.
you gotta when you deal with the scriptures, the prophecy, you gotta deal with the real world. These nations are not gonna join Russia because they like vodka. Yeah, they're gonna join Russia because they don't like America, but they also see Russia as a viable alternative, meaning power.
Yeah.
We can win. So Russia has to project power. They have to do these things. And they began to do that with Syria. So what we're looking for them to do is to continue this with Venezuela. And this is why it's very interesting to see what Russia and their allies are going to do in this particular situation.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely something to take note of and pay attention to. You know, we're heading into something that is quite interesting. You know, did you want me to touch in on any other of these articles?
No, that was the point there. Can I get a precept?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get this precept. This is Psalms 9, 9 and 15. It says the heathen are sunk down in the pit that they made, in the net which they hid in their own foot. They're taken. You see, because all these, Russia and America, they're making all these power moves to gain the supremacy. But ultimately, what's going to happen is they're all going to be destroyed, mainly America. But they're all going to be brought down low by this great war that they're about to do. And make no mistake, this war is unprecedented. This is going to be a global war involving all nations, man. It's going to be crazy. And the footwork for that war is being set right now. On one side, you got America, and on the other side, you got Russia and everyone in between. And it's beautiful. It says, the Lord is known by the judgment which he executed. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. So here it is. You got two Edomite nations, America, and you got Russia. And in their pride, they're fighting and vying and doing what they're doing, trying to establish this new world order, vying for position. But ultimately, they're digging their own pit.
That's right.
Both of them collectively, they're basically digging the pit that Esau's gonna lay in. And that's a beautiful thing. So America's trying to keep that hegemony going. Russia's trying to take that hegemony. But overall, Esau's gonna lose.
That's right. That's right. And that's what we're seeing. I'm gonna backdoor you with Psalms 35 and 8. Let destruction come upon him at unawares, and let his net that he hath hid catch himself. Into that very destruction let him fall. And my soul shall be joyful in the Lord. It shall rejoice in his salvation. And that's what's happening, man. He's conspiring to bring all these nations together to come and have a fight so that they can have a global economic reset and institute this market of beast system and, just commit all these iniquities upon the planet Earth, further the affliction, so to speak, But at the end of the day, he's going to catch himself up in destruction, blow himself up. It's very interesting. It's an algorithm. And it's beautiful, Do you have anything else you want to bring out, Doc?
Yeah, just one more scripture here. Revelations 20 and 8. It says, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. So we know that Gog Magog is very important player in the coming war. And we know that this war is going to be the four quarters of the earth. So you got South America, that's one quarter. This war that's coming is going to be fought on so many different levels, man. It's going to be crazy. all these nations are going to be drawn into this war. And you already seen in South America, some nations are still clinging to America. Like, I believe, who is it? Bolivia?
Well, Bolivia really is on the side of Russia.
Who was the name? Was it Colombia? No, Colombia.
Yeah.
That's it, Colombia. So you already see that there's a division forming within South America of, you got nations that are kind of still staying with America, and then you got nations that have turned to Russia, and then you got the nations in between who are waiting to see what side they should really fall on. And it's all going to come down to war.
Let's go.
You know, it's going to be beautiful. That's why you got to, it don't matter where you are, man. That's why you got to believe in Yahweh Shai. That's why you got to listen, learn about Yahweh Shai. That's the main thing, because the Lord is going to bring great judgment on this earth, man. And it's gonna touch everywhere. There's nowhere that's gonna be safe, so to speak, man. Because all these different if your country has an army, they're gonna be in World War III.
Yep.
Simple as that. All across Africa, the same things happening. Same things happening in Africa, same thing in Asia, all over the Middle East. These different nations, different geopolitical things are happening leading up to this final war. These nations are all buying their weaponries, the guns, missiles, the air defenses, and as the scriptures say, was it? Let me get that scripture real quick. Isaiah 34, one of my favorite scriptures, man. Isaiah 34:1. Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is there in the world, and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them. He hath delivered them to the slaughter.
Yeah. It's funny because it seems so ridiculous. People don't believe it. It seems so outstanding. And it's really true. We're really at the precipice of major actions happening in the world,
That's right.
And we always talk about how, people get all bent out of shape when there's a school shooting and people die. You're going to start to see larger numbers of people being in one setting. In one setting, you're going to have 3,000-4,000 people mashed on it. It ain't going to just be in an Avengers movie. It's going to be real life, It's just like the Bible say. The Bible is going to come. The Bible has been coming true this whole time, but people think magically it just ain't going to come true now. No. It's going to, what the scriptures say is going to happen, man. That's why all these things are happening. That's why Trump is being so ridiculous. It's because we're living in a time for things to get ridiculous. When you read the prophecy, it sounds ridiculous, don't it? Well, then it's going to take ridiculous men to get this thing cracking. Okay? So that's what we're seeing. You got anything else out?
No, that was it.
Well, we just wanted to do a algorithm, bring y'all up to date on the situation going on over there in Venezuela. Talk about that, how it pertains to prophecy, man. GMS San Diego, I ain't forgot about you now. Cause I'm gonna talk to the elder Mwatazak and make sure you checked in. Ain't no hate. But if you still on, you need to go ahead and check in. Okay? But you have any closing statements out?
No, I mean that's basically it, brothers. Just gotta keep their eyes open, man. And we in the last days, man. So things, any move could be the last. The mark of the beast is the system is ready. So all the final prophecies are here. So we don't know how fast things can come together, man. Real fast. So we gotta keep our eyes open, man. All these last prophecies can just come whap, 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 you know? So we got to keep our eyes open.
All right, man. Hey, man, with that, man, we want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Rakah Kadash. Send double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone once again. Send much peace, love, and salutations to you brothers out there pushing this word sincerity and truth, man. On to the next one, man. Shalom.
Shalom.